Good morning, everyone. Welcome to City Life. It's Monday, the 12th of July. I'm Cliff Krieger, your host. My co-host down at the far end is George Zaharoulis, who's made the long trek in from Chelmsford. George, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. And also the regular Monday guy is Fru Nkimbeng, who's made the long trek in from. You live in the Acre?
The Acre.
Yeah. And our guest today is Marty Hogan, who's running for city council. John, you had a thought. Oh, Mike is here. Mike Smith from New York. Boy, I've got at least 3 topics from New York that.
Yeah, I saw him. So.
How are you, Mike?
Good.
Good. And Marty, where are you running?
So I am running in the newly identified and set up District 2 of Centerville, across the bridge in Centerville, and I am running for that seat, again, newly created, and I'm happy to do it because I like meeting and talking and working with the people over there.
Totally changing hemispheres. Fru, do you have a quick update for us on what's happening in Ambazonia?
Yes, Cliff, thank you very much. But I have also to remind our viewers and audience and the city of Lowell that when you bring up the Ambazonian on this show, we should know that there is an official diplomatic relationship between the city of Lowell and Bamenda in Cameroon that was established on the 5th of November 2000, signed by the former mayor Rita Mercier and our official representative, his king, King Anwafo, paid a visit to the city of Lowell, received by former Mayor Rita Mercier and also former Mayor Bill Martin. So it is really on that note that Lowell has a deep connection with the people of Bamenda. So when once we bring this topic on, I would also want to establish that connection to remind the people of Lowell that you have a sister city out there that you have been passionate and supporting them. When the crisis started in Bamenda, in southern Cameroon, in 2016, Lowell City actually welcomed the leaders of the English Cameroon at City Hall. And when the Lowell City Hall saw that the people were brutally killed who are defenseless, the City Hall, during, I think, Mayor Kennedy, actually they passed a proclamation, the first city in the world, in the United States, condemning that movement. And the BBC picked up that important decision and went on the air, was calling people all over the world and applauding what the city council in Lowell did. So on that note, Cliff, I'd like to thank the people of Lowell who have been the trailblazer, on the forefront, sensitizing the whole world about the silent genocide that is taking place in the southern Cameroon. So I would also say when the crisis started, the Republic of Cameroon, which is French-speaking, the majority, they cut internet connection to going to the English Cameroon, which English Cameroon, they have the same policy like the U.S. democratic and follow the common law. They cut the internet. There was worldwide condemnation, and they had to open the internet. But now what they are doing is, if you are living in the English Cameroon, there is an official boundary from English Cameroon to French Cameroon, divided by a river called the Mongo River. On the west side is the English Cameroon. That was an independent country before they came together. And then on the east side of the river is French Cameroon, known as East Cameroon. When you are on the English side, on the English side of that river, your internet is absolutely non-existent. And there is no way that the people, that the world can know about that. When once you cross that river, you see on the side of French Cameroon, I mean, internet, everything is moving well. So that is what they are now using to block communication to the outside world. So it is when this show always, once in a while, bring that on, I really credit City Life show and the host on this show, you, Cliff, John, George, that you have taken on this issue passionately and bringing it to the world that very few people know about. And this is something that should be really talked about very much, because the silence and then the darkness that happened in 1994 when during the Rwanda genocide, that before the world opened their eyes, almost 1 million people had been slaughtered. And everyone quite remember the famous word that President Clinton used, that never again in history. And almost 25 years now, it is occurring in the southern Cameroon. So thank you very much, Lowell and the City Hall and the City Life show for what you do.
I worry that we're not paying attention because we're not paying attention elsewhere. There are demonstrators outside the White House, and some progressive organization sent a letter to President Biden saying that we should not be making a big deal of what China is doing to the Uyghur minority, because we should be focused on climate change, and they're small potatoes, the Uyghurs. And then just last week, the Democratic Socialists, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, I think Bernie Sanders is basically a Democratic Socialist. Anyway, they all went to Venezuela and said, Venezuela is doing great. Well, Venezuela's not doing great. It's hurting the people, and they're suffering. They took a thriving economy from 20 years ago and ran it into the ground. So I'm worried that people in the United States are not paying attention to what's going on in the rest of the world. Maybe that's just because I've lived overseas too much. And Fru, Marty?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think that they're going to try to, the Democrat Socialists, I guess is what we're calling them, they want to push their agenda, and any way they can, so the PR on that makes it look to their followers as if that is true. And that's the problem, is we have a lot of people who just need to look at what's really going on. Just become more, aware of, like you just said, Venezuela is horrible. I mean, I remember years ago, we were getting the oil from them, Joe Kennedy, and they were saying, oh, their system is so great, they have all this extra oil they're donating and all this and that, and now they have nothing. And the people are starving to death. So.
Well, as you mentioned, Cliff, your knowledge of the world, understanding of the world is very vast and based, and also well compared to those who have not stepped out of the U.S. They look at the world based on the lens of the CNN and on what they see. They think that the world is that. And but for you, you have walked around the world, so you can give an honest comparison and description. And whatever you say, I think I take it very, very seriously, because it is not from a myopic view, but you are looking at it from an international perspective. So there are some other people who have not really gone out beyond the walls of Lowell, let's say America, but they give some kind of generalized view of the world as if the world centers in Lowell or in America. So in that light, when we talk about Venezuela 20 years ago, look at it in this country 20 years ago, things were perfect. They are not equally perfect. So in any country, everything is a revolution, and things have to, economic situation change around the world. So we should not equally just think that what happened then should be the same thing now, and as well as what is happening in this country, then what happened then is not exactly what is happening now.
Well, that's
So
true.
there's no perfection
That is true.
anywhere.
In the United States, we didn't go from the top to the bottom. Venezuela, kind of in their own political realm and area, did.
You are very right
Yeah.
about that, but I'm
Yeah.
equally saying that
Yeah.
these are small nations
Yeah.
that they bow down to the dictates of the major powers.
But we can credit George for this, because the Greek expression from the Peloponnesian War, what was that, 2,400 years ago? Or, the strong do what they will, the weak do what they must.
Yeah.
Who was that? Pericles?
Not sure.
The strong do what they want, and the weak,
Do what they must.
yeah, the strong do what they will, the weak do what they must. This was a guy trying to justify knocking off a small island kingdom. We're dealing with the proverb, perfect is the enemy of good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to change subject. Well, no, I'm going to let Fru talk, and then I've got to change subjects for my stomach.
Well, on that note, I just heard you were talking about trash, leave,
Yes.
and for a month now, our recycle has not been picked, and I pay my bill. But what I would really like to find out from any candidate who is running to serve us in the City Hall is what are the problems that you see that the current administration or the current city councils, or what are the problems that Lowell face that you think that are not being addressed, and what are the solutions that you think that if you are elected, you will bring those changes that will affect not only the district that you represent, but the entire Lowell. Because as a citizen in Lowell, I would like to hear what ideas you are running that will affect and change us.
Okay, I'm going to buy Marty 5 minutes.
Okay.
On that very important question, and ask Mike to tell me about what's happening on the border, and then we will turn back and Fru will restate his question, and Marty will go for another 15 minutes.
Okay.
But Mike, tell me about the border.
Okay, so the border is still closed between the U.S. and Canada. Just so Marty knows, my partner lives in Canada, so that's why we bring it up all the time. Trudeau now keeps changing the numbers. Originally, he said that things would loosen up, be better when 75% of the people got a first shot, you had at least 20% fully vaccinated. Right now, of the eligible people, that's 12 and older, it's almost 80% of the people have had a first shot, and almost 50% are fully vaccinated. The border is still closed to at least July 21st. Now they're allowing Canadians to return to Canada, and they don't have to go through quarantine, the same like they did before. But Canadians still can't come across the border, drive across into like New York State. They can fly into the U.S. and then go back, but they can't drive across. And right now they're talking, Trudeau just said that he's thinking about 80% or more now before he's thinking of opening the border. He also said that anybody who's unvaccinated will not be allowed in Canada. They said that that is not going to Anybody who's not vaccinated is not going to be allowed into Canada unless they're a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. They can't deny citizens from returning, but they would have to quarantine for 14 days if they were unvaccinated. It's kind of ironic that somehow the border is closed between the U.S. and Canada, but they can't seem to get on top of closing the border between Mexico and the U.S. So that's where we stand with Canada.
Okay, and I understand that your esteemed governor has declared that gun violence is a health emergency.
Gun violence is not being done by law-abiding citizens who own guns. It's being done by multiple gangs, and since we have a no bail in our state, basically almost any crime, it seems like, that you get arrested and they let you out without any bail. So, and we've also in New York City, you know, they've lost, how many hundreds of police officers have retired, saying they're just not going to do it anymore. So we don't have the police to help protect the population. And the really scary part is that not just in New York City, but all over the country, many people thought about going into law enforcement and are not even thinking about it anymore. So not only are they losing people from the current police forces, they're having a hard time even recruiting new people that are qualified.
Anybody got any follow-up thoughts for Mike? No. Well, in that case, Fru, it's time to attack Marty.
Well, I mean, I was saying
That's not an attack. That's actually something that all voters should be asking.
I was saying that we spend time talking about the voting system, which is very, very important.
Yes.
But as a candidate and also as any other candidates, you probably, before you made your decision to run for city council, you have seen that there are things that are not being done, that you think that you have the ideas and suggestions to do them. My question is, could you identify what are some of the problems that Lowell is facing, and what ideas do you bring in to be able to address these problems?
Well, I think systematically we're facing a council that, and as John said earlier, one doesn't want to stand up sometimes to certain members of the administration. Basically, I come in because I want to, day one, I want to ask, and I've said this to a lot of people and it's resonated, I want to ask for an independent audit of the city and where the money is going. You talked about earlier about the trash being everywhere and not being picked up, okay? I talked about trash being on the street. We had people in our neighborhood on our Centerville page that were complaining about not having their trash picked up. Forget about recycling, trash, for days, and it smelled on 3 separate streets. People called the city and nothing was done. I called the city, I sent emails, and it still took 3 or 4 days for anything to be taken care of. I don't know why that is something that the city deems as being not important. That's very important. That's quality of life, okay? Quality of life, I don't think we understand that cleanliness, they talk about cleanliness as godliness, but cleanliness also leads to safety. If you have a clean area, people won't come in and think that they can do whatever they want in your area. There is a mindset to that. So, but as far as a candidate, I want to go in and find out where all of our money is going. As I said before about the DPW, I heard that the guy that's in charge of the DPW helped create this Lowell cleanup crew, which is fine, volunteer group. But it should not be that group that's doing the heavy lifting and all the extra stuff that the city should be doing, as in cleaning up roads, cleaning up yards that are owned or in the possession of the city. When it comes to trash barrels that are left out by the city, when you go up to the park, up to the Robinson School and the baseball field up there, okay? And I went to get signatures up there about a couple of weeks ago, and somebody says to me, you see that little puddle over there in the ground? Yeah, you see the water bubbling up from it? And I thought I was seeing things. It wasn't. But whatever it is, this water is coming up. And I thought it wasn't true, but I watched. They had water going down the sink and people using the sinks at the field. And the water was coming up from that. As soon as they turned off the water stopped bubbling up. That bothers me because that's something the city should be taking care of. There was a kid playing in it. I had to go over and pull the kid out of it because I don't know what's in that water. That's scary. I was told by the parents there that this has been going on for a year and a half. It's those things. They had to clean the field before they started using it for Centerville baseball because there was so much trash on the field. Now, they use the field and they clean up afterwards because I watched them do it afterwards. But they shouldn't have to clean it when they show up. These are the things that I'm talking about are not being taken care of. And I want to go to City Council and say, here's a list of things that we have. I'm an IT professional. I said this before. I have a help desk that tells me exactly what are the problems, where's the status on them, and what are we doing currently with them. And we always report it back to the person that requested it. That's what I want to see for the City Council to the residents of Lowell. And I'm doing that personally through my campaign website where people can send in problems. And I will, on my own, as a candidate, to prove my want to do this, report it to the city and see what we get and report back to the constituents as well as the city should be. But we need those things. So as a candidate, I'm somebody that will go and make sure that you are communicated to exactly what's going on. We need to know what's going on. And I said the audit. The audit is very important because we talk about a budget every year. We talk about money that we have, the money going here, that, and the next thing. Our taxes go up. We ask for where did that money go? What are we paying for? Why did our taxes increase? I think it's a simple enough question. The city should be able to answer it, and I would like to see those answers. So
Well, pick up the financial report, and you'll find out. Now, my understanding is that,
have you looked at the budgets?
oh yes,
And you cannot break down what's in, and you cannot, unless you have an accounting's degree, you cannot break down what's in there. You can't. You don't know where the money's going for your taxes. Our taxes increased this year.
well,
What percentage of it
first
is
of
it
all,
for?
I want to know where the money's coming from.
If I may just suggest something which I think is equally very, very important. A few months back, I believe the police or so, they stopped in front of, they stopped at my house because I have the bionic lights.
Yep.
They look like security lights.
Yeah.
So they came and asked.
Motion sensor?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. They came and asked that to look at the camera in my house. So my wife called me at work. I said some security are in the house. They want to look at the camera. Do you have a camera in the house? I just jokingly I told her that I have a camera, which was on speakerphone. So they hear. They said we want to see the camera because there is something happening. They want to check. So I said no. In fact, it's not a camera. It's just a bionic light, spotlight. They insisted. I showed them the box. They saw it. So that actually made me to see how those cameras can help the police in the neighborhood. That if any home, John, I believe you have cameras in your facilities here. I believe if any home owner has cameras around, that will also help the police.
Yes.
And if there is some compensation or encouragement from the city hall to encourage homeowners to have those cameras around, if there is any crime in the neighborhood, that will also help the police to be able to investigate and keep the neighborhood free and safe. So it is something that candidates should push forth so that they should come up with something that they will give a discount to homeowners who have these cameras.
I can tell you, because I have as the president of CNAG, and because we had a problem down on Eustis Ave, it's still ongoing, but there was an issue down on that street. We met with the neighbors and all of that. We have been encouraging all of our neighbors to get either the Ring doorbell or other types of security cameras, because the police do ask and they do use that as a help to them. I think that that is, one, it's good for your own safety, but two, it's also good for helping the police.
Video doesn't lie.
Huh?
Video doesn't
No,
lie.
it doesn't.
Yeah, but where I come
I'm
in is-
sorry. Do you believe that?
It doesn't lie as long as it hasn't been edited.
it depends the angles where you're looking
Cliff.
from.
I'm not
John.
saying, I could create a cartoon, okay? But the video that you get from security cameras, you can fool around with it if you really want to get in trouble with the cops, but video doesn't lie. And video has helped, in my camera situation. We had this guy who got into a collision, and the opposing side said, "You hit my car." And clearly on the video, the guy who was saying, "You hit my car," was on the wrong side of the street and had hit a parked car before he hit
Yeah.
the car going the other way.
Yeah.
And that was we made a copy of the video for the guy. He was happy. The police are very polite. No call up and say, "Look, would you take a look at your cameras? Did you see the episode that happened on Highland Street or Gorham Street or you?"
Yeah.
And if we have it, Cat will call them back. "Yeah, we got some activity there."
Yeah.
They'll come up and look at it and say, "Yeah, would you mind giving us a copy of that?" So I mean, they're very polite about it.
So,
But that's what I'm saying. the
so
City
I can
Hall
tell you, yeah, but
can come up with
just to
something
get what I was going to
encourage
say, we asked the city about that encouragement, and we actually asked, because they are very expensive, is there any way that the city can go out to Ring or some other supplier and see if there's a reduction? The city got back to CNAG through me and basically said, we can, but you have to buy them. So the city, the Civic Association needs to buy the units in bulk, and you'll get them at a discount. Well, any person can buy in bulk and get the discount. I think we need to work with the city and the rest of the Civic Association, and I would work to do that, because that's one of the things I've been working on as the CNAG president, is to get somebody to come out, one, demonstrate the different types, what they all do, and explain it to our members, and also do a discount program for us. But I think the city could do that. I mean, the Ring doorbell is $125 on average, okay? If you even did a $30 reduction on that, okay, it would help. And the city could work with the vendor or Home Depot or Lowe's or somebody.
But you are talking about the vendor. I'm talking about the citizen. I spend the money to buy.
No,
it.
no, no, no. I'm talking.
No, finish.
No.
Let me finish
Yeah.
my point.
Yeah.
I spend the money to buy the camera.
Yep.
I don't want any discount or so that that's my own way to help the police and keep.
No,
my own-
I agree with you.
Let me
I agree
finish.
with you.
Let me
Yeah.
finish. That's my own way to help the police and help my neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I would like City Hall
Yeah.
to say homeowners who have camera, there's a discount that we will be giving to you a month, because once that helps the neighborhood, and when a crime occurs, it facilitates the job of the police.
So are you talking
I am
about a discount?
indirectly-
Are you talking about a discount on like your taxes or?
Right, the city hall.
Okay.
The city hall will come up
Okay.
with some other thing, not the vendor.
Yeah.
I'm asking.
But the
what
vendor, a
is-
lot of people say to us that it's too expensive to buy. That's why I'm saying about the vendor. That's the front end cost that prohibits them.
Yeah, what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I have seen the value in it.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I, as a citizen, can help the police and my community. Now I pay taxes in the city. So what is the city hall doing to encourage everyone?
I would definitely
So
look
that
into
is
that.
how you,
I would
as a
definitely-
candidate, should look at it,
Yeah.
and not the vendor, because I chose to go
Yeah.
and buy.
Yeah.
Because
You can
in
also get a reduction on your insurance. You know that, right?
many
Yeah.
ways that
Yeah.
the city hall can
Yeah.
do to encourage
Yep.
the citizens of Lowell.
Yep.
That's where I am coming.
But I think one of the biggest ways you can encourage people to do it is by making it more affordable.
Sure.
George, I don't think I've heard your opinion on the issue of the city council giving up the auditor to the city manager. Did you have a thought about that, an opinion? And then I'll talk to Marty about it.
I didn't catch it all. You said the city council gave up.
Yeah, no longer does the auditor work for the city council, but the auditor now works for the city manager. That just seemed like a bad move to me.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is. But they do have, every so often, an outside auditing firm come in and do the books.
Oh, that's right, yeah. But they're hired by the city manager.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they're on the line. If something happens, they're going to be responsible. So they can't fudge the figures.
Okay, so you think that's an adequate check then?
No, the auditor coming under the manager, no.
Okay. Marty, is this something that can be reversed by the new city council?
I'm sure that,
Sure it can.
yeah, there can be a vote taken and a motion made to reorganize the city auditor back underneath the city council. I think it's a bad move too, because the council is the one, well, let me put it to you this way. I think that, believe it or not, I think both sides should be doing auditing. I know that we think of it as a whole city as itself, but the city council, the elected members versus the appointed members, and I know the manager works for the city council. It's appointed by the city council. But you still have the two sides of the house. You have the electeds that report to the people what I want to be doing, and the appointed who are supposed to work basically for everybody, but they try to find out what each side is doing. So when you request at these meetings, there's a lot of requests from the city manager for information and data and all that. That's because the city council gets it directly from the city manager. That's why I want to have an independent audit done, so that the city council is aware of what's going on with all of the departments and the spending
Well, this
outside of.
this electronic system that's in place, was it Munis?
Yeah, Munis.
And they built into Unis is an automatic auditing system, so that once something is entered, it goes through the process, and there should be a red flag. Somebody should be watching it. There should be a red flag if something is not right.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as an audit, you'd have to have an outside firm come in and do the audit.
Mhm.
But what kind of audit do you want? Do you want a funding audit, a cash audit? What kind of
Well, I think
audit?
that we'd want multiple types, because you'd want a cash audit to find out what we have on hand, because that's different than what we actually have, what we have as a city. We want to know an audit on where each one of the departments is spending, which they have, but I would want to do a complete audit so that we have the numbers and say to the people come to you or me or everybody, and we all say, well, where's all that money going? The problem is that we don't know as citizens where our tax dollars are going. Cent for cent, percentage for percentage. I've heard from many people that their taxes have gone up at least $300 in the last 2 years. And I've asked the city, does that include the building of the school, the new high school? Because we were all told that it was going to be $300 to $400 on average.
And the lot overpass.
Yeah, and the Lord overpass. And nobody can tell me what exactly it's from. Was it from the school? Was it from the Lord overpass? Was it from other things? Was it from projects we're in? I would like to know and be able to tell the people, my neighbors, where is this money coming? What money that is coming from you is going to what? And so therefore they can say, well, we're paying this much money out of our taxes, and if you times that by whatever the number is, that's this amount of money. People need to know what they're buying.
The city council as a finance committee, and he calls himself the watchdog. So apparently he let the dog loose and nobody's watching it. Okay? So that finance committee should be on the stick. They should be reviewing everything that's going on.
Mhm.
And it should be very clear. I mean, they get printouts on printouts. So if you have a base to start from, you can kind of go through the base and see where the errors are. And certain funds are linked into a specific project.
Yep. Some aren't bounded, yes.
Yeah. So the projects, you got to look at the projects. Did they comply?
Mm-hmm.
Do they fall in line? This is the responsibility of the city council, to make sure that whatever they vote on,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that it's being used for that purpose.
Yeah, incorrectly and
Correctly.
yeah. And that's why I'm saying, as a city councilor, I want to be upfront and totally transparent with that. That's why I want to know.
I want to get Mike's input in just a second, but our city council for generations has just ignored that employee. Never asked the auditor any questions, rarely would ask the auditor any questions.
Okay, but what we really should do is reintroduce the panel, because we also have to get Fru's input on this.
Yes.
And so, for those of you who've just tuned in at 7 o'clock, I'm Cliff Krieger. I'm your host. George Zaroulis at the other end is our co-host. Next to me, Fru Nkimbeng, who is also part of the Monday panel. And we have Mike Smith on remote from New York State. And our guest is Marty Hogan. Wait, Mike. Too late. And Marty Hogan's our guest, and Marty
Always.
is running for City Council in District 2, Centerville.
Yep.
And we're discussing the auditor, and I wanted to find out what Fru thought about this auditor situation. Do you deal with auditors in your work, Fru?
We deal, but that is not my specialty, and I will not delve in areas that I have no knowledge about. I don't want to exhibit my ignorance.
Oh, okay.
It's a good idea.
All right. Mike, do you have a thought on auditors?
Yeah, I have some experience. When my kids went to Catholic school, so I was chairperson of the finance committee for 5 years. And the one thing I got to say about auditing is whoever's watching over that has to be committed.
Yep.
I would get a printout every month from the parish secretary, and I would look over everything every month on where the expenses were and what was budgeted. And I had many discussions with the principal and the priest on why things were being spent a certain way that we hadn't budgeted for. So it takes a lot of commitment, and I wish the city council good luck on finding somebody who's committed to really looking at things.
Okay, John.
I think it also comes down to the members of the city council requiring that there be good auditing done, and that they be fully updated, at least the finance committee, on what's going on.
The finance committee gives a report.
I just wanted, one of the audience, she sends us a text this morning. It says, her name is Gail Ann. She says, I may have missed the discussion on what is happening with the people sleeping on the streets downtown, but I see this is a most serious problem. And what do you think you're going to do about that, Marty?
So one of the areas, and the reason why I want to do an audit, going back to that, it comes down to where are we spending money and how can we be smarter and more efficient with our money. And here's the reason why. Because in the end, the money that we have in the city is what we can give or use for services for our constituents and our residents. If we don't have the money, you can't spend it. It's just like having a home budget. If you don't have the money, I'm not going out and purchasing a new car. Even though I may need it, I can't. So the city needs to be able to do that as well. And I think being smarter about what we do, okay? And again, I need to see what the numbers are. On the inside, I'm sure it's a lot different than being on the outside, but I can tell you, if we were running our home like we spend money in the city, and we're not getting the services and the resolutions that we should be, like with trash and with things like that, then there's something going on. There's something wrong, okay? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I know when to answer that question directly, I would make sure that the city council is doing something actively. We need to combat the underemployed, I use it this way, underemployed and homelessness issue. There are many people who are underemployed, on the verge of becoming homeless. And there are people who are already homeless. Much of the homeless issue is mental health issues. I've met a lot of them down at the parks, at their setups on the Riverway, and many of them will even admit to me that they have a problem, but there's no way for them to get help, or at least that's what they feel. I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can as far as that goes to have those people recognized, identified, and helping them to get out of that situation. But as far as underemployed, which is the next level up, because I did work in job development at one point, and my company I came from was job development. I think that Centerville, I would like to work to bring a job development program to Centerville with the city, the help of the city and the nonprofits. I'd like to make that one of my pet projects for our city.
What should the average business owner, like myself and other people who own small businesses, do to protect the data on their system?
Well, there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have, on a base level, you have a good antivirus system on your computer. The second thing is if you have a bigger network, some companies just have a bunch of computers connected through Comcast and they're not really networked. But if you have a network system, you should have a firewall, some type of firewall that saves you from being attacked actively and from being having your information stolen. But the antivirus and the antivirus is the biggest thing. The other thing I would do is I would definitely invest in some kind of malware detection system. And the difference between malware and true viruses is that it gets on your computer, and usually it's through spam emails. Spam emails will send you information, trying to phish information from you, but they'll also embed things on there that will pull your contact list from your Outlook or your email. It will pull your Facebook information. There's a whole hell of a lot of things that the malware will do that you want to keep yourself safe from. So just to name a few, antiviruses, Norton, McAfee, ESET, Kaspersky, they're all good. Some of them slow down systems a little bit. Some people feel that their computers are slow with it. It's natural. It's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to go in and it's a program. It's running all the time. So you have a program that's running all the time, it's going to slow down your computer. Malware, you have Malwarebytes, Sophos, there's a bunch of different ones.
Well, does shutting your computer off on a holiday weekend help?
Maybe also using an encryption software to protect your data with BitLocker, so that even your system, so that even if anyone gets a thumb drive, they cannot just plug in and get information out of your computer.
That's one of the good ways. The encryption I think of when people are taking their laptops from place to place. Yes, on thumb drives you should really be careful of, always make sure you have it on you and that you don't ever lose it, because it's not, but you can encrypt you can get a program that can encrypt them where nobody can actually open it except for your computer. What were you asking, John? I didn't. You said keeping it on during a holiday weekend?
I understand why my colleagues in small business leave their computers running when they go home.
Well, there's a couple of things. It really comes down to laziness, John. I think that a lot of people don't shut off their computers because they want to have access to it right away when they sit down the next day. The problem with that is, and I think you know this, is when you restart your computer is just a whole bunch of files that are open. And as they're open, it's reading and writing to them, and sometimes it can be mess-ups, there can be issues, it can corrupt. And if you don't update, if you don't restart your computer or shut it down and reboot it, one, you're not giving it time to not be on. It's like a machine. It's every machine, yeah. It's going to burn out. But the second thing is that if you don't care about that and you want to replace them, your software needs to be shut down in order to update. And
to add on to that, Mike, as an IT professional, you compare, John, if you go for 1 day or 1 week without sleeping, how do you function?
Yeah.
When once you shut your computer down and reboot it, it's like you have taken a good sleep. Your computer refreshes its memory, and then it's faster and it's stronger. Just like the same analogy as human beings, when once you take a good sleep, you work well. You have to at least shut your computer down completely, not just lock off. You power it down and then reboot.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, well, the point I'm trying to get across to the audience today is that when you leave your computer on and you walk off and wherever you're going to do with you're done playing with your computer for this time frame.
Yep.
And you're not probably going to come back to your computer until tomorrow. Or maybe it's morning. You're not going to come back to it until supper time. When you leave that computer running all day long, it's connected to the internet.
Correct.
And it's just like not locking your car.
Correct. It's
And people
also,
don't realize that.
anybody can come in and sit down at your seat, especially when you have a login, okay? A lot of people, even small businesses, they don't use logins. They don't use a password to do their login, which is very stupid because anybody could sit at your desk and grab anything they want while you're not there. That's the whole point of the password, is to make it harder on the people that aren't supposed to be there. Not on you. It does end up being more work, but it's worth it. It's work that you need to do. I can't tell you at work, when I'm at work, how many people say to me, well, do I really have to reboot like you just said? Yes, you do. I tell people at least once a week. You go home on Friday, shut it down for the night. You're saving us energy, and you're actually not burning out the machine.
But Marty, what's the difference between putting your computer to sleep and rebooting it?
So putting your computer to sleep versus rebooting it's as simple as this. All the electronics still stay on, okay? You still have everything in your memory when you put it to sleep. Everything that you used previously when you put it to sleep is still in memory, so you have access to it right away. That's the whole point. But you're leaving it there open, running all the time in that memory, as you were saying, over and over and over. It just gets worn down. That's the difference. When you shut it down, there's nothing going on. There's nothing. The brain is off. It's not a. So it's like sleep for us is shutting it down. Sleep for computer is like a short nap for us.
And to add on that, when once you start your computer, you're opening files, the memory is only like this.
Yeah.
It's eating the memory,
Yes. Actively.
And if you don't shut those files, and it continues to eat the memory and slows your computer. So at some point you run out of memory. That's when your computer starts slowing down. There's a difference between memory. Yeah. There's a difference between memory and hard drive.
So no. So I do know this one because we worked at my work. We had this issue because what happens is, in order to do a remote desktop session, if your computer goes to sleep and the network card is set, there's a setting on the network card, meaning the Ethernet card that connects to the internet. By default, usually it's set to go to sleep. It shuts off, so data can't get in. But they have what's called Wake on LAN, and they also have what is called, you can shut off the power saving on it, so it can be always on. Even if your computer goes to sleep, that one piece is still working. So it's two answers to that. If your computer is set to have the LAN cable still active, then yes, somebody can get in and
So
get
it's
it.
likely, even when you put your computer to sleep, your data can still get...
Correct.
Thank you. You still get seen and stolen.
Yeah.
You're very right, because they are remote users.
Yes.
When once you are logging from your your computer in the office, you log into that computer in the office is asleep, but you can get through it because that computer is connected to the internet.
And you didn't shut off
Yes,
the card, yeah.
yes.
And we
So-
always did that for that reason, so that people could get in all the time.
So, John, for your point is
Yeah,
very,
yes.
when once you leave your computer and connected to the internet, you are vulnerable.
And lastly, for my lady friends out there that say, have you seen this video? And you click on that link. Can you tell the audience when I get that email or instant message, have you seen this video? What happens when I click that link?
It goes to a site that is not a video usually. It's usually taking your data or putting a file on your computer that will inevitably give your information away. Or it could put basically, if you press on a link, it can also start a program which would install a software on your computer, unbeknownst to you, that would allow somebody to get in all the time.
Fru, what are your thoughts?
No, definitely. That
Yeah.
when once those images come, they are flattering you, so that when once you click, you have opened the door for the malware to come in and install on your computer and start collecting data while you are
Yeah.
not knowing. When
Yeah.
once you are typing on the
Yeah.
keyboard, that malware is is capturing your keystrokes and knows everything and can pick your password, all your information, your credit card or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when once you see, the best thing is just delete it.
Yeah. If you don't know what it is and
Yep.
you're not expecting it, get rid of it.
Just delete it.
My favorite saying, I say this to people at work and I say it personally, basically, you think of going to the internet as opening a door one way. You're going out and seeing their stuff. No, 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 no. The internet works both ways. The door slides open both ways. So
Yep.
you're opening up a
Swinging
portal for
door.
both. Yeah. The door swings both ways. To quote Ghostbusters, it opens both ways. So you're as vulnerable as that site is. Websites will lock themselves down so that you can't do things to them. The average person doesn't realize that.
Now I'm going to get into what some of my colleagues do, and they have no idea how bad this really is. They have desktop access to all their employees. Cliff's going bananas because this isn't on the agenda. But it's a sneaky way to access
that's
the
laziness.
You can turn on your employee's computer and see them. They have no idea you're looking at them. And they have no idea I'm shopping. I went to stewarts.com and I'm shopping at Stewart's while I'm at work. They can see your desktop.
They can see your desktop, just like,
And then we'll go back to Cliff.
yeah, basically, you can see the desktop. You can get in and make changes as all you want, as long as you put something like LogMeIn has a you don't even have to tell the person you're going into the computer. You're just always on there. You can monitor it 24 hours a day if you want to. I've done it. I don't like doing it as an IT professional because I find that it's very, what's the word?
It's the company's computer. The company has a right to
The
look
company
at
has a right to do it.
Anytime
I
they
just
want.
personally, as a person, don't like doing it because it's sneaky. I think that
Yeah,
as a
well,
company,
so is shopping during company
you're
time.
right. You're right. Yep. And
Yeah, but my big guide is when I get email from dead people, I delete them. My buddy from
it's a good
Dairy-
policy.
Derry, New Hampshire, Howie Clark, who I was there when we put him in the ground in Arlington Cemetery a couple of years ago. I got an email from him a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
and I just
So-
deleted it.
So what you're saying is you're pretty sure it wasn't from.
I'm pretty sure.
Talking from the underworld.
The ones I get, and I want to warn people out there, just one little thing, it's been happening more and more. There are a lot of people on Facebook who are spoofing other people's profiles and then sending you a message and saying, hey, how have you been? And that happened about 6 months ago. A person I grew up with in Southie, who I know has passed away, I went to his funeral, okay? Reached out to me all of a sudden, and I started laughing. My wife says to me, what's the matter? And I said, I think I just proved that the afterlife exists. And she's like, what? I showed her, oh boy. So I started playing with them. I'm like, so how's things? And I'd ask questions of things that had nothing to do. I'd be like, so how's your dog? That person never had a dog. What was his name again? And at the end I said, I know you're fake, and I'm reporting you because and I told them exactly, and then I reported it, and they were gone the next day. So just be careful out there. Don't fall for the fake falls.
How much more connectivity do you get when you actually establish a connection with this guy? How much more connectivity does he have to your computer?
It's not the connectivity right away. It's the fact that they could send you a link.
I understand, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, my understanding
Yeah.
is as soon as you start to converse with this guy, he has access to you. He's called out to you on the phone, on the computer.
Yeah, it
And
depends.
that's just and you guys are pros.
It depends on what they're doing. You can't call it in every. So first of all, if that's the case in every case, then we're all behind the eight ball because honestly, they can send you a message without being your friend on Facebook. So
I think it all depends on the know-how
Of
of
the
the
person.
criminal who's getting into
Correct.
you.
They're pretty bright.
If he's a
They
programmer
have a lot of free
and
time.
artist, he knows he has all the time to try all scenarios to get at you.
Yep.
So I think the advice for non-users is to protect yourself and not open anything that you are not 100% that you don't trust its source, because you are really exposing yourself to a lot of unknowns.
We might be
Yes.
getting a little too deep, so I'm going to
All
back
right.
up the bulldozer and give it a clip.
Okay, I want to go and ask Mike a question because it looks like last week Eric Adams became the guy who's likely to become the new mayor of New York City. You got any thoughts on Eric?
Well, yes, I did some research on that, and he has officially won the Democratic primary. So he'll be running against the Republican primary winner now. He's a former captain of the New York City Police Department, I believe. And it's interesting because he ran against the defunding the police mantra that was being put out by different groups. And it's also interesting that James Clyburn was interviewed about this. He's the number 3 in the hierarchy in the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. And he even said that defunding the police is not the way to go. And it looks like the voters have decided on the Democratic side that, yes, defunding the police is not the way to go, that they want their neighborhoods protected. They want to, be safe in their neighborhoods. So because New York City is overwhelmingly Democratic leaning, the chances of the Republican candidate winning are pretty small. So it looks like he would be the new mayor next year when de Blasio has to step down because he can't run again.
So I noticed that Eric Adams was running against the progressives. So,
Yes,
so he
he
didn't
is.
win the downtown New York.
Yes, he's not gonna. He's more of in the middle, more of he's not out on one wing or the other, conservative or liberal. He's trying to run a more common sense campaign, and I think that the voters see that because, to be honest, I mean, crime has risen in New York City tremendously, and people just want to be safe. I mean, they don't want to be worried about being shot or other things happening to them. And I mean, he knows what needs to be done. He worked for the police, and I think that he'll do a good job.
Okay, thanks.